We're tuning into the deep dive. And today, we're really trying to cut through all the information out there about self-discipline and resilience.
Yeah, there's so much.
Exactly. Forget the fluff. We want to get to the core insights, the things that can actually help you build these strengths in your daily life.
Right. We've looked through quite a bit, some practical guides, some science on goal-setting habits, even an interesting Reddit discussion with real-world examples.
Okay.
And the mission really is to give you actionable stuff, maybe a few surprises, things that'll help you build stronger self-discipline, handle pressure better, form good habits, but without making you feel totally overwhelmed.
Sounds good. So where should we start?
Well, let's maybe unpack self-discipline first.
Okay, yeah, because the term itself can sound a bit harsh, maybe. Like it's all about forcing yourself to do things.
Right. But what really came through in the sources is that it's actually much closer to self-care. It's about consciously building habits that line up with what you actually prioritize.
That's a really important shift, isn't it?
It is. It's less about just brute willpower and more about intentionally setting up your life, your schedule, your environment to support what matters to you.
And the benefits seem pretty significant.
Oh, definitely. We're talking about, finally hitting those big goals, getting past the procrastination that always seems to trip us up, and just building those consistent, productive habits that over time lead to real change.
And the good news is, it's not like you're born with it or not.
Exactly. It's a skill, something you can build, like a muscle. Just takes consistent effort.
So how do we actually build that muscle then? What are the practical steps?
Well, one really fundamental idea that kept coming up is starting small, like really small.
Yeah.
It's all about building momentum, tiny habits, done consistently. There was a good example, Amanda, who wanted to read more for her career.
Right.
Instead of saying, I'll read an hour a day, she just committed to 5 pages. Just 5.
And what happened?
It worked. That small start just lowered the barrier. Pretty soon, she was naturally reading more because the habit was there. It wasn't this huge, daunting thing anymore.
Yeah, it makes sense psychologically. Small wins build that confidence, that self-efficacy.
Exactly. And another big one, managing distractions actively.
Like being really intentional about it.
Yeah. Making choices to just remove the things that pull you away. Setting up, focused work time.
We saw that with Mark, right? The thesis writer.
Yes. Just leaving his phone in another room, using website blockers. It made a huge difference to his productivity.
It's that environmental design idea again, shaping your space to help you focus.
It's super powerful. Make the good choice the easy choice. And another interesting point about goals was setting an upper limit, not just a minimum.
Tell me more about that. That sounds counterintuitive.
Well, we usually say, I want to lose at least 5 pounds or exercise at least twice. But sometimes defining the upper boundary, too, like between 5 and 7 pounds, can weirdly make it feel more manageable, less like a potentially endless task.
Interesting. And that links back to making good habits the default, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like the phone by the bed example. If it's right there, checking it first thing is almost automatic.
But if you put it across the room...
You've made a different choice easier. You've shifted the default path.
Okay. What else helps build that discipline?
Visualizing progress came up, like Hassan, looking at his savings goal daily. That visual keeps it real, keeps him motivated.
And just physically writing goals down.
Yeah.
Old school, but effective.
Definitely. Having that visual reminder. Prioritizing helps to maybe tackling the less fun stuff first when your energy is higher.
Yeah, eat the frog, as they say.
Right. And knowing your weaknesses. If you know Twitter is your kryptonite, be proactive about avoiding it during work time.
Makes sense. What about getting other people involved?
Crucial. Accountability.
Yeah.
Friends, family, mentors, a coach. Telling someone your goal adds a layer of, social commitment.
And mindset seems key, too. Not beating yourself up over mistakes.
Totally. Seeing mistakes as learning chances, staying positive generally, and being mindful of procrastination urges. Maybe use a timer just to notice when you feel like drifting off. Awareness is the first step.
And if you do slip up?
Forgive yourself. Move on. It's part of learning. Oh, and have a backup plan. Know what you'll do if things go sideways. It stops a small slip from becoming a total derailment.
Okay, wow. Lots of practical stuff there for self-discipline. Let's shift gears a bit now to resilience. How are we defining that?
In simple terms, it's basically your ability to cope well when things get tough, when you're under pressure.
And it's linked to having a positive outlook.
Yeah, a positive but realistic outlook. And having strategies to manage that pressure. It's about bouncing back from adversity.
And why is being able to bounce back so critical?
Well, firstly, it's a buffer against stress.
Yeah.
And we know stress is bad news for both mental and physical health. Our sources really emphasize that.
Mm.
And secondly, in demanding situations, whether work or life, resilience is just essential for keeping going, for maintaining your performance and well-being.
So it protects us from the bad stuff. Are there positive benefits too? Like, what do we gain by building resilience?
Oh, loads. The guides talked about better job satisfaction, definitely. More personal growth, things like self-awareness, emotional intelligence.
Okay, understanding yourself and others better.
Exactly. Better self-management, more overall well-being, like feeling more optimistic and confident, and even making better decisions, because stress can really mess with our thinking.
So what actually makes someone resilient? What are the components?
The sources point to a few key things. Good self-awareness is one, knowing your triggers, your strengths,
Right.
having a toolkit of coping strategies, different ways to handle pressure, a strong support system, people you can rely on, and like we said, maintaining that positive but realistic outlook.
Okay. Now, pressure and stress, they're pretty much unavoidable. How do we spot when it's getting unhealthy?
Well, it helps to think about short-term versus long-term pressure. Both can be harmful if they're constant.
Okay.
So that immediate in-the-moment pressure, maybe a deadline, a difficult meeting, you might notice physical signs first, like stomach issues, tense muscles,
Yeah.
or emotional signs, getting easily irritated, feeling overwhelmed. Behaviorally, maybe you start procrastinating more or have nervous habits. And mentally, finding it hard to concentrate, thinking negatively.
And when we feel that immediate pressure rising, what can we actually do right then and there?
There are some quick wins. Breathing exercises are great, like the 7-11 breath, in for 7, out for 11. It really calms the nervous system.
Okay.
Simple muscle relaxation, consciously unclenching your jaw or dropping your shoulders, getting up and moving, even for a minute, stepping away briefly, talking to someone, or just noticing your feelings without judging them, that's mindfulness. Trying to break negative thought cycles. Simple problem solving. Positive self-talk. Even practicing these things as a team if it's a work context.
Right. But what about when it's not just a moment, but it feels like it's dragging on? The long-term pressure, chronic stress.
Yeah, that shows up differently, more persistently. Emotionally, you might feel constantly tense, irritable, maybe even low or depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Physically feeling really weary, sleep problems, constant headaches. Behaviorally, maybe apathy, pulling away from people, perhaps relying on unhealthy things like alcohol or comfort eating. And it can affect others too, more arguments, maybe taking more sick days.
So the strategies for dealing with that kind of stress must be different, more sustained.
Exactly. It's more about lifestyle adjustments. Looking after your physical health is foundational: diet, exercise, sleep. Can't emphasize that enough.
Right.
And actively tending to your mental health, connecting with people, trying new activities you enjoy, mindfulness again, setting boundaries, especially between work and life.
That's a big one.
Huge. Learning to communicate assertively, using I statements, being able to say no sometimes. Better time management planning, prioritizing, seeking support from your network. And importantly, addressing any root causes like bullying or harassment, if that's happening.
So building resilience is also about personal growth, isn't it? The guides mention specific characteristics.
Yes, things like managing thoughts and feelings effectively, tolerating ambiguity, not needing everything to be certain,
Okay.
having that positive but realistic approach, thinking accurately, empathy, confidence in problem solving, and being willing to risk failure, seeing it as learning.
And 3 areas really jumped out for development: emotional intelligence, accurate thinking, and realistic optimism. Let's unpack those. Emotional intelligence first.
Right. So EI is about recognizing and managing your own emotions, but also understanding and responding thoughtfully to other people's emotions. Key parts are self-awareness, self-management, empathy, and good interpersonal skills. And you develop it by paying attention to how you react under pressure, naming your feelings, noticing your impact on others, pausing before you react, trying to see other perspectives, really listening.
Actively listening.
Yes, and asking questions that help others find their own solutions. Like reframing fail as first attempt in learning. It's about that mindset shift.
And accurate thinking.
Yeah.
That sounds crucial for not spiraling when stressed.
Totally. It's about being objective, sticking to the facts, separating facts from your interpretation. Stress makes us prone to inaccurate thinking, like filtering out the good stuff.
Right, only seeing the negative.
Or personalizing things, assuming someone's bad mood is about you. or catastrophizing, imagining the absolute worst outcome, or black and white thinking.
Got it.
So the skill is noticing those negative automatic thoughts, ANTs, as they're sometimes called, challenging them, and looking for more balanced, evidence-based interpretations.
And finally, realistic optimism. You mentioned it's not just being blindly positive.
Exactly. It's not ignoring difficulties. It's seeing things clearly, warts and all, but still believing you can make the best of it, find solutions, navigate the challenges.
So it's about agency, taking responsibility.
Yes, engaging positively, focusing on problem solving. You can practice it by reframing negative thoughts instead of, this is impossible, maybe this is tough, what's the first step I can take?
Okay.
Making the best of hard situations. Can I alter it? Adapt to it?
Right.
Avoid it if needed? Or accept it if I can't change it. And you build optimism by knowing your value, having good support, looking for learning opportunities.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now let's switch gears slightly. Habits. The case study really zeroed in on habits for personal growth.
Yeah.
How do they fit into discipline and resilience?
Well, habits are basically those automatic reactions we have to certain cues. The case study, Emily, right, showed that cue routine reward loop perfectly.
Her alarm was the cue.
Yep, alarm cue, workout, routine, feeling energized, reward. And that reward reinforces the whole loop. Repetition, consistency, that's what wires it into your brain.
And motivation matters here too, right? Intrinsic versus extrinsic.
Hugely important. That internal drive, doing it because you want to or enjoy it, that's what makes habits stick long term, much more than just doing it for an external reward.
The study also talked about different types of habits. Keystone habits, what are those?
Keystone habits are fascinating. They're like foundational habits that trigger other positive changes. Emily's exercise habit was a keystone one.
How so?
Because once she got consistent with exercise, she naturally started eating better, sleeping better, even felt more productive at work. One habit unlocked others.
Got it. And it mentioned routine versus ritualistic habits.
Yeah, routine habits are more like those automatic daily things, drinking water when you wake up. Ritualistic habits have a bit more intention or meaning behind them, like Emily's Sunday reflection time.
And obviously positive versus negative habits.
Right. We all have both. Like Emily struggled with procrastination, negative, and used time blocking, positive, to replace it. The point is, building positive habits is fundamental for growth.
Why fundamental?
Because they automate the behaviors that build discipline. They free up your mental energy. You're not deciding every single time. And they boost your belief in your own ability to change things, your self-efficacy.
Okay, that links everything together nicely. Lastly, let's quickly touch on role models. The Reddit discussion was interesting. What can we learn from looking at people admired for their discipline?
Yeah, that was insightful. People mentioned folks like Chris Hadfield, the astronaut, known for his intense preparation and realism. Jiro Ono, the sushi chef, famed for his absolute dedication. Even people like Elon Musk. What people admired wasn't just talent, but things like diligence, perseverance, focus, realistic thinking, overcoming adversity, like Tom Hardy's story of transformation.
So the common thread wasn't necessarily innate genius.
Not really. It was more about the hard work, the grind, the self-discipline behind the success. Even people who seem naturally gifted rely heavily on it.
Really reinforces that these are learnable skills, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's not some magic trait only a few people have. We can all cultivate these things.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things you hope people take away about self-discipline and resilience?
I think the biggest thing is that these aren't fixed traits. They're skills you can learn and build. It happens through small, consistent actions, understanding how you react to pressure, developing that emotional intelligence and accurate thinking, and building good habits.
It's a process, not a destination.
Precisely. And interestingly, even with the role models, the focus was often on their process, their consistent effort, not just their achievements. Discipline seems more accessible than maybe we think.
So it's less about some huge overnight change and more about those daily intentional choices.
Exactly that. If you can take away some of these practical strategies, understand the power of your internal motivation, and aim for that realistic optimism, you've got a much better toolkit for navigating life's challenges and working towards what you really want.
Okay, so a final thought for everyone listening. Maybe think about one small habit you could start building today. Just one. Or perhaps one thought pattern you could start noticing and questioning more closely. These small steps really can build that foundation for greater self-discipline and resilience. Maybe also reflect on who your role models are and what specific quality you admired that you could actively cultivate yourself. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.